everybody, and welcome to this week's Foster Care Uncovered. We are delighted how many of you are listening to the podcast. I think we've had over 2,000 downloads now, which we're really, really pleased with. We're just saying Louise and I are podcast virgins, so we have absolutely no idea if that's good or bad, but we think it's good. And it's great that the discussions are getting out there, because I want to really, really reiterate, if you like, because we are tackling really hard subjects and we're going at them pretty hard. The last one on the Form F was, listening back, it was a fairly harsh assessment of it. But we are passionate about foster care, about children's care, and about social work and the whole of children's services, and we want to make it better. This is not anti-recruitment, this is for recruitment. We want more foster carers, more social workers, and I'm hoping that people can see we're having really open and frank discussions about so many things that, there is a great future here in foster care. So do not be perturbed. We are absolutely passionate about foster care, and we really do urge people to come forward, step forward. Contact us if you like about fostering, and people like Nana about stepping up to social work. So, Louise, I'll let you introduce our esteemed guest this morning.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, and welcome everybody. And just as Sarah said, when we started this journey, we didn't think anyone would listen. So to have so many people downloading is great. And we're absolutely thrilled today to have Nana here today, Nana Abbey-Hagen. Nana, you're just an incredible human being. We've been doing the research on
Here,
Sarah knew all about you anyway, and then I've been catching up, and it's just your work is incredible, and we're so thrilled you're here. Now, your journey started early, at just 16 years old, working as a young person's advocate in family group conferencing. What struck Nana then, I think, Nana, you'll agree, and what still drives Nana now, was the lack of representation of Black men in social work. Since then, he's built a career focused on changing that picture. He's been nominated for the Amazing Social Worker Award, well done you, recognised by BASW. Recently won the Social Work Journalism Award, lectures at multiple universities, mentors the next generation of practitioners, manages frontline teams, and hosts conversations with some of the sector's biggest names, including Chief Social Worker Isabelle Trowler. So welcome, Anna.
Well, and before we pass over to you, Nana, for our listeners, for foster carers, kinship carers, social workers, managers, policy people, we want to say that today's conversation sits right across all of your worlds. We will be focusing on social care, but we know the relationship between foster carers and social workers can be challenging at times. We endlessly hear that, and foster carers often feel done too. I think from this conversation, you'll understand that social workers too often feel done too. And we know also that we can understand this system or we can change it, but without understanding the pressures, risks, the decisions and realities shaping social work today, we won't be able to do that. So Nana brings a perspective that connects those dots, frontline practice, leadership, representation, community experience, and what it means to work in spaces where corporate policy and real life dynamics, street dynamics collide. And I know so many foster carers will understand that dynamic as well. So, Nana, welcome to the podcast. We're genuinely thrilled to have you here. I think, Louise, you're going to step off with the first question.
Yes, Nana, it's so wonderful to have you here. We really are privileged that you're on our podcast. I want to talk a little bit about your journey. I'm always interested about how people end up where they do, and how they got there, and how you, at the tender age of 16, stepped into advocacy, a role which takes great determination and insight. And you seem to do that so confidently. Long before most people have even thought about social work, you were there. You were offering your services, you were stepping up to and recognized a need, which is incredible. And you've spoken powerfully about realizing you didn't see people who look like you in the profession. And I think this is really powerful and revealing about professions like children's social care and adult social care and these kind of roles. Can you take us back to the moment? Tell us a little bit about your journey, what inspired you, and how you got there, and how that shaped you when you wanted to go into your career as a social worker. And we also hear that your mum's a social worker. Is that right? Yes, it's in your DNA.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got my background. I've got a family of social workers. My mum works in the social care field. My siblings are both social workers as well.
Oh, wow.
Um, you're both absolutely right. I mean, I started working as a young person advocate when I was 16 in family conferences for my first local authority, and I think my mum, I always will give her credit. She definitely saw something in me and said, I think you'd be a good social worker. And I always wanted to work with young people. So
Yeah.
that was very much kind of like my drive and wanted to go into social work, and particularly, working with families during family group conferencing. I mean, I got on me. I mean, at that young age to go into it, the level of experience that I got and the relationship I
Yeah.
built with families were brilliant.
Amazing.
But it was more about, okay, right, you're at age 16, you're family conference coordinator and advocate. What is the next step? And my mum said to me, well, you know what? You need to go into social work. And in fact, a lot of people had said to me, social work is your calling. So I went down a normal linear route, going to university and getting the bachelor's. But when I stepped in, well over a decade ago, you're talking about 2014, you're absolutely right that I didn't see a lot of black men, and even now, there's still not a lot of black men in social work anyway. We're a kind of minority anyway, and
Yeah.
leadership. So I felt it was important for me to kind of break through those glass ceilings and be in those rooms, because a lot of the inequalities that I still see today was very much there when I started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I felt that actually I wanted to kind of get into leadership, because many of we speak about inequality within fostering as well, which I'll talk a lot more, and within the care system, but within social work is there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, sometimes you do need to have that representation at a more kind of managerial senior level. So that was kind of always been my drive to kind of go into social work, but also kind of progress into leadership. So I've gone and managed different teams, child protection, looked after children. I now manage a leaving care team as well. But that was very much my drive and focus, but also wanting to change the system as well, within social work, because I do feel that the system needs a lot of change.
Yeah.
I do feel still a big disconnect between the families that we work with, our stakeholders, our young people, our foster carers, but also there's a lot of pressure that social workers are also under. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel as though, a profession such as social work, we've never had the space and autonomy to be able to kind of call it out as it is. Hence why, I'm part of the Social Care Mentor podcast I did with
Yes.
Rob, which
Yeah.
Sarah, you've been on,
I
which
have.
we're
I
very,
have.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, which we're very, very real
That's the
about
one you won the award for, wasn't it? The
on the
Social
awards
Worker
board.
and the
Yeah,
Mentor podcast. Look out for that, everybody, because it's available on YouTube, isn't it?
it's on YouTube. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
so we're very,
amazing.
very real and authentic in terms of the key issues and what's happening in social work. I guess probably for me, I'm probably very much at a point whereby you do need to speak up. And I'm not controversial, but I say a lot in terms of what social workers are thinking, what many foster carers are thinking as well. So that's kind of given me the scope with the platform. But ultimately, I do want to be able to make the changes that I want, but also just kind of make sure that I represent too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's a really I mean, yes, representation. You've been very honest about that glass ceiling, not just for yourself, but the next generation. What I want to go back a bit to that leadership thing, because what I've noticed, I somewhere did I read somewhere that you have aspirations even to be a minister to change things. I think that's fantastic. Um, two things here. First of all, Josh McAllister, as you know, has recently stepped into a ministerial position, but it's kind of meant he's rode back on so much that was in the care review and seems to be, a slave to government direction as opposed to, what he really wants to do. Do you think that maybe a ministerial position clamps that down a bit? And also, secondly, ties in with that, you've done a lot of work with Isabelle Trowler, who's the government's chief social worker. She's been in position for 12 years. And I don't think from the sound of it, you're saying that in 12 years, a lot has changed, maybe got worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, I think one of the things that I do know is that, when you are in these positions, at times you can feel that what you want to do, you can feel very much limited. And I've been having a lot of discussions with the chief social worker in terms of what needs to change, but also what social workers are actually saying. When I qualified a decade ago, social work is not the same in terms of where it is now, because the next generation of social workers are also feeling it. We've got a lot to do.
What way? Can you explain why it's different?
So even in terms of like the issues that we're dealing with right now, there's lots in terms of young people involved in contextual safeguarding. You've got serious violence. You've got a rise in domestic abuse, in child mental health. And so for me, one of the things that I've openly said is that the systems and the practice models, for me, in my view, they don't align with what's currently happening today. It's catching up. And so hence why I've spoken a lot about a practice model called the street social work practice model. It needs to allow social workers and also leaders to have a lot more of a grassroots community lens on what's happening. Because particularly in leadership, one of the things that can happen is that you can progress up and become very, very detached. One thing about me as a manager is that if I still need to go out and see young people, I do. Like right now, my team's understaffed by one. I've allocated a case to a young person to me. So I've gone out and seen that young person. I'm going to his LAC reviews week. He's neurodivergent. The point for me is that right now the system has to catch to what's happening.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think local authorities, well, the practice models that we implement isn't really relational to families, because families, Sarah and Louise, often go and say, you guys are very, very detached in terms of what's actually going on the ground. I immerse myself into the communities. Me and Isabel went to Brixton Soup Kitchen. And for me, I'm hoping one day I do get to meet Josh McAllister, because I think from my own perspective, there'll be things that I'd want to say to him in the fact that I know these are the reforms and changes is what's happening. But I think you need to go into those communities to also have a different lens as well.
Yeah, totally. And also not just lip service. You get that feeling that they turn up for a photo opportunity. They say all in foster care, the same words come out of every minister's mouth: love, belonging. We want love, belonging. There's never any how do we get there, or what are the solutions, or we'll listen to that's the other thing. Do you feel that hierarchy that are so detached from reality ever listen to the front line?
To be honest with you, no. I think there's a big gap between the top and what's going on the ground. Sometimes social workers say in local authorities that my senior leadership team are far removed from what's going on. I mean, I was on the ground. I've been a manager for nearly 4 years, but I was on the ground for about 8 years or so. And most of my experience was child protection. Hence why when social workers say, Nana, this is the pressure that I'm under, my lens is a lot more different, because I also go out with them. So I actually go and see what's going on. So I do think sometimes that, yes, there can be a big disconnect between senior leadership and also the front line. And a lot of social workers do say that on the ground, that actually sometimes they don't feel senior leadership understand the real pressures.
Or the role, or the everyday frontline activity. We feel the same thing, Nana, exactly the same thing.
I'm watching our listeners. We're actually on our computers talking to each other so we can see each other, and I'm watching Nana go the senior leadership and pointing to
the hand
and us and to the bottom, and this is something that the problem we have with something which
Mm.
has social in its name is hierarchy. You cannot have this level of hierarchy with something which is so complicated. And I hope that one day we can strive for a flatter management process where they can see. And I've always said to Sarah, I blame architecture a lot for this because it's corporate parent. There's a level of following the corporate model where the top guys who make all the decisions sit at the very top, and they have the plush boardrooms, and then we're all doing the work, and then beneath us are the families. And I think that is such a wasted opportunity because I'm listening to you thinking, why aren't we working? Why aren't they talking to the families? You cannot make changes unless you feel it, in your heart and you see it.
But also, I think, Louise, also for me, it's also about the experiences that you've had on the ground. Like, I'm hoping I can get into senior leadership. But one of the things that I won't lose is that I won't forget what it was like for me on the ground, even at team manager stage.
Yeah. But you're you, Nana.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And everyone says that. Rob says that to me, Nana, but
So many just do because it's a
yeah.
career progression and
Yeah, but I won't forget about it. And I think that's what kind of keeps me grounded is the fact that I still recognize the pressures. I mean, obviously, as you progress up into senior leadership, you become strategic rather than operational. So right now I'm operational. There will be a point whereby when I move up, I become a lot more strategic. So yes, I won't be able to go out as much as I used to. But what I need to remember is if the social workers and my managers on the ground are saying to Nana, this is the pressure, what's going on, caseloads are too high, there's difficulties, that I still have that sense about me where it's like, okay, you know what? If I've got capacity, let me just go out and go and do the odd visit also. Not every visit, but it just shows that actually I haven't forgotten and I haven't lost my sense of right. This is still what's happening.
Yeah. Here.
Sense
of right.
It's important, very, very important.
I absolutely agree. But so the other thing about that, the hierarchy thing, is that this is the thing we find as well. So many at the top, you see it a lot on social media, LinkedIn, stuff like that. They're all sort of pronouncing how Ofsted outstanding, everything's marvelous, it's all going terribly well. Leadership, sort of, our social workers are fantastic, everything's going hunky dory. There really does seem to be no genuine reflection or listening to that front line. Do you have a problem with social workers where they're slightly nervous about going forward with it?
You know what, Sarah and Louise, I've said this on my podcast. One of the things that I've noticed, and it's what makes me a bit more unique in terms of how I am as a person, is that I think the culture of social work, and Rob says it all the time, that in social work, if you talk up, you get kind of like a slap on the wrist or you told you can't say anything.
Yeah.
I always go back to our Basel Code of Ethics. Our Basel Code of Ethics talks about advocacy. And so for me to be a social worker and to not speak, one, when there's issues going on within the actual profession, and two, when there's things going on within your local authority, I generally can't do that. So at times, yes, I've been told, Nana, you talk too much. But
tone it down. That's what we get. Tone it down.
Yeah, but I've been told, but I've said, but I can't. And sometimes, Sarah and Louise, you do get social workers who feel as though they can't say anything.
Well, they're scared for their jobs, aren't they?
Yeah. But then the thing is, the culture of social work, we should be able to speak, because I always say to social workers that it's like, if you're going to panel, for example, and you need a resource for a family, you are going to be speaking to your senior leadership team. You have to advocate for the reason why that resource is needed.
Yeah.
But I am at a point in my career and very experienced enough that, okay, right, I've got a bit of position. But even before that, I would speak and I would talk. And the podcast, to be honest with you, when you listen to the episodes with myself and Rob, many social workers are like, Nana, thank you very much for saying this.
Yeah.
How I'm feeling.
I feel heard. Yeah.
Listen, and a lot of senior leaders that I know, they watch the podcast and they love the podcast, because actually, I'm saying what a lot of us are thinking. If caseloads are high, we can't do the job we want to do for social work. If we have no resources, we can't do the job we want to do for families. So the system is failing the families, but it's also failing the social workers, because there was a point where I had 40 children on my case as a senior social worker, dangerous. you know, all these sorts of things. So that's the reason why, you know, I'm doing work with the Social Workers Union, with the Chief Social Worker, with BASWA, because for me, it's about trying to make change.
And
And
what are you, what specific change are you trying to make? Is it policy level or is it culture? Is that what is the actual action that can be taken?
so for me, so for example, caseload. So for example, let's talk about social work as a whole. Caseloads, for example, they absolutely need to drop. That is one thing that needs to happen.
How?
So we need. So for me, I was fortunate when I qualified. We had bigger teams. The
Right,
teams
yeah.
quite seen. There's a lot more smaller teams. There's high turnover. Social workers are working more than 35 plus hours a week. Social workers getting burnt out. Sometimes the pay is not equating to the work that we do. Social workers are going off sick. Social workers are not able to take their toil and all those sorts of things. So for me, the whole culture needs to change. Cases need to drop. We need bigger teams. We need multidisciplinary teams as well. For me, community organizations need to be embedded within to local authorities. I don't think they should be outsourced. They should be inside local authority. They should be part of local authority. We need the funding. We genuinely need the funding to be able to do the work we want to do with families. So in terms of that, there needs to be better working conditions for social workers. Social workers are leaving.
Yeah,
Social workers,
yeah. Same
not,
as foster carers, yeah.
they're not staying. It's the
No.
same also with foster carers as well. Foster carers also are getting burnt out. And I know sometimes you are getting burnt out. I know people sometimes have the view in terms of, oh, so foster carers get paid this and this and this, and it's, you know, there's a lot to debunk. But foster carers are getting burnt out as well. Sometimes foster carers don't also have a voice.
They don't have a voice at all, no.
They don't have a voice, which is what we were saying when you come onto my podcast. The working conditions for social workers need a complete change. Absolutely. Now, in terms of
want to know the how, Nana, because we are always saying, aren't we, this has to change, that has to change. And you are such a proactive person. Give me some ideas of some steps, maybe that you're talking to Isabelle about, actual positive. People want to hear out there, all right, that's going on or that's going on. Because we're so easy to say it all needs to change. What do you think we actually can implement to make these changes?
So what I've done with the BASWA and Social Workers Union. So we recently went to Parliament and we've got the first cross-party working group with MPs. So for me, if I had my way in terms of what would change, I would have bigger social work team, which means that caseloads could be a lot more lower because then you'd be able to cascade it out different. Like I said, when I qualified, I was in a team of 10 social workers. It was 10 social workers. So 10 social workers. And then we also had 2 senior social workers as well. So the cases for me were a lot more lower. It was manageable. Able to have bigger teams. That's the first thing. The second thing also is that for me, social workers should be paid for their time. And I mean after hours.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
After hours, because there's times whereby we're working on the weekends or after 5 o'clock. Sometimes we don't get home till 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and we've got to go into work. We should be paid for our time.
Yeah.
We should. You should be increasing the pay for social workers as well. Social workers have struggled with pay for years. That also needs to be implemented and needs to be better. Absolutely. You know, even in terms of I know we do a lot in terms of social workers' well-being and mental health, and there's a lot to do with occupational health. We need a lot more services. So clinical supervision, I had the benefit of that. I had clinical supervision in the Tavistock when I first qualified. I've had that for over a decade. That needs to be also implemented as well. And also, finally, in terms of like career progression as well, one thing that I will say about career progression, I had to go through progression panels. You have to do extra work to progress. I don't think it should be like that anymore for social work. You've already got your caseload, then you've got to do a portfolio. I mean, there's a lot of things for me.
They fly in helicopter in social workers from places like Frontline and things, don't they?
Yeah, I mean,
we'll have to go through the progression stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also needs to kind of follow through because, like I said, there's different. You've got Frontline, you've got the Step Up program. So I'm not saying this program shouldn't be there, but you need social work needs to be a lot more attractive for people to come in,
Yeah.
because
All
I've got newly
people.
qualified, because I've got newly qualified social workers who are like, after a year, I'm done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be there
so,
anymore.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So there's a lot of things for me that need to change.
It's interesting, Nana, that you talk about panels. Now we would we did a Form F podcast, which I just want to say that Sarah is not a big fan of panels,
Or
and I'm listening
fostering
to
panels, but
fostering panels. But
that needs an
why does
explanation.
why does this whole sector have so many panels? What is this kind of, it's almost draconian. It's like they don't trust us, that they have to have
It's
people.
about oversight, isn't it, Louise? And so
Yeah.
it's about oversight. I mean, the panels are there for oversight. I mean, for example, children who are accommodated, you have your high cost panels. The local authority needs to see how their money and their resources is being used. So it's about oversight and also scrutiny as well, to make sure that we're thorough in our decision making. So yeah, sometimes in some local authorities, there's loads of panels so that it can be a collective decision. So at least, someone can have their view on this, someone can have their view on that. So I think that's the whole emphasis. It's about oversight and proper scrutiny.
But you have,
I think I just want to say a explainer here that actually my beef is with specific fostering panel, not the other panels, and that I'm not saying we shouldn't have oversight. I just don't think this oversight is enough. I don't think you should have accountants and solicitors judging whether someone's good enough to be a social worker, a foster carer. I think that the panel system as it is, that's a discussion for another day, but I just wanted to put that in because I'm not against panels per se, but I'm very against fostering panels. And our other podcast discusses the reasons why.
We have 152, I think, local authorities, and each of those local authorities will be in different financial positions. My observation is that the panels reflect entirely the financial position of that local authority in terms of what they are overseeing in terms of cost and expenditure. Now, going back to the Form F and expenditure, to do 10,000 to do the Form Fs for 10,000 new foster carers will cost the taxpayer, the local authorities, £100 million. Now, when I heard myself say that in that interview, I was just thinking frontline social workers, foster carers, children, families are being starved of resources. And I'm listening to you, Nana, and I talk to the police and I talk to teachers, all saying the same thing, that in a way we're creating a storm of children who just experience neglect because none of us seem to have the resources, human and material, financial, to do the work we want to do properly. And I'm listening to you with absolute hope. You're the most hopeful person I've spoken to in social work. I have 2 foster children. One social worker we thought was amazing has just left. The other young person has just received a foster carer, her 4th this year. It says a lot, and it doesn't help foster carers' confidence, and it really doesn't help the abandonment issues of our young people who just go, I have no confidence and I have no faith. So please carry on, Nonna. I'm loving what you're saying.
Like I said, there's a lot that does need to change, and like I said, I am really, really, really trying as much as possible. And like I said, I'm fortunate that I'm in positions whereby I'm with the social workers union with BASWA. I'm speaking a lot with the chief social worker. We're going to be going out a lot into the community and the resources. So we're doing that partnership work. And like I said, when I hopefully do get to speak to Josh McAllister, I can at least, explain to him what's actually going on the ground. I think from my perspective, still being a local authority working on the front line, I can provide that feedback because it's important that the voices of the bottom is fed back to those at the top as well.
Yeah, and I think it's all of this is so chicken and egg, isn't it? You can't make the bigger teams without more social workers. You can't have more social workers without improving the conditions. This is so reflective of what's going on in foster care as well. And again, I'm hoping that foster carers, and the sad thing is that many foster carers have great relationships with social workers, especially their supervising social workers. But there is a lot of discontent in that relationship between social workers and foster carers. I mean, it's very difficult, but often when you ask a social work team how they're getting on with their how they're getting on with their social work, the foster carers. I've spoke to a local authority recently, and they said they had 2 meetings, and they said to the social workers, say what you like, the foster carers, say what you like, it won't hurt you, you won't leave the room. And it's like day and night. The social workers are, oh yes, they really love us, it's really going well, no problem at all. And the stories they were hearing from the foster carers day and night. I mean, because this isn't helpful for anybody either, least of all the children. I'm wondering who keeps that wedge in between us all. Is there something more deeper going on? What drives that wedge, Nana, to make foster carers the sort of bottom of the pile and not really respected by some social workers?
I think some of it sometimes goes to deal with, I think for me, it can also be around care planning as well. Because one of the things that, I've got good relationship with foster carers, and I think sometimes
Yeah.
from the outside, when foster carers are saying this is what's going on, maybe as social workers, we have a different view and be like, well, actually, you're not doing this, I'm doing that. But one of the things we have to respect is that foster carers have children every single day in their home. We see children in care every 6 weeks or so. So for me, I've always tried to create a good balance and have a good relationship with foster carers, because if there's contention between the social worker and the foster carer, not only could that placement break down, the relationship is not going to work. So I think sometimes it is to do with care planning. Sometimes it's about us reflecting and understanding that these are the key issues, because we have to listen to our foster carers. But like I said, for me, I'm very fortunate that I haven't had any negative experience with foster carers. But that's not to say that there's some foster carers that I've worked with who, with other social workers, have had negative experiences, don't feel as though they can speak to them, and they might speak to me as the manager, and I might call them after hours a bit. Look, can I have a conversation with you? Because fostering, just like social work, is very, very, very difficult. It is, and foster carers need to be able to have a voice, which is why I was so happy to have you on the podcast, because I did. The voice of foster carers is not always heard, the same way that the of social work is not always heard. But we have to respect our foster carers and what they're managing in terms of the children, young people that are in their care.
Yeah. And I think one of the things Louise and I tackle, which is probably a bit of an elephant in the room that nobody ever wants to say, because foster carers are sort of turned into heroes and this, that, and the other. But we don't think that the quality of every foster care is where it should be. And we don't think the skills are where they should be. And I guess as well, what I'm saying here, that's a missed opportunity. Not so much. People are hired to do a job. They're brought in, as a foster carer to on whatever the local authority or agency say they're going to be. So in actual fact, it's the responsibility of the local agency, the local authority and the agencies to educate them properly, to make sure that they only put through the best people. And of course, a lot of the best people are being turned away. I know that that's not a comfortable conversation to have in foster care, because it's part of the marketing strategy. Actually, anyone can do it. All you need is a big heart and a pulse, and or spare room and a pulse. Really, it's got really bad since the recruitment things. But we all know, we've been, Louise and I, everyone, on our team, we all know we've been to those sort of foster care gatherings or whatever, or maybe a dinner dance or something, where we've gone, oh God, the way they're talking about the children, or that's not appropriate, or no wonder they're giving them all up as teenagers. What's your honest opinion on how we can improve that?
I think for me, it goes back down to the whole vetting process, because you are right. I mean, there are some circumstances whereby there are some foster carers whereby actually their heart is not in it. It's the same thing, what I would say to you for social work as well. If you've lost your passion for fostering or say social work, it's time for you to step aside.
Yeah.
And completely come out. That's one of the things that I would say, because the only thing is that you can vet all you want. Obviously, it's when you come out and see it. But for me, for those who were in it, if you've lost your passion for fostering, it's stepping out, because the moment, from what you said, Sarah and Louise, in terms of what people are saying outside about their children, young people, that's the time you need to step aside, because it isn't fair. It isn't fair to those children and young people where you're going to be giving them the bare minimum if you're exhausted. And it's okay for you to actually go and say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I need to come out. I say the same thing for social workers as well. There's some social workers you see in their practice, they haven't got it in them anymore.
The trouble is, though, Nana, that's their jobs. And whether you like it or not, foster carers, 65% of them are full-time. And they've given up other jobs years ago in order to become full-time foster carers and can't necessarily go back into their other employment. Also, sometimes that burnout and losing that passion isn't their fault, is it? It's like with the social workers burnout, it again goes back to the conditions.
It's the conditions as well, yeah. And I agree with you that the conditions of foster carers is not always the best. It's work. And I think, we can't be seeing social workers and foster carers as enemies.
No, this is so important.
Foster carers and social workers are all in the same boat.
Yeah.
I treat foster carers with the same respect as I would treat any social worker. It doesn't matter how high up the chain I am, because foster carers do a good job. And foster carers get a lot of scrutiny as well, just like.
And
we
need to clone you, Nana, because actually not everybody's feeling that out there.
No, I know, I know. And like I said, I have met brilliant foster carers.
Yeah.
There are some, like, out of 100%, maybe, I'll say 98% are brilliant. You might get a small minority whereby they're not. But most foster carers, they come into this job role because they care. They want to make changes. The team that I manage, we've got a lot of care leavers. They some of them are under stay and put. They have brilliant relationships with those foster carers. Those foster carers are honoured, and they become part of that extended family. So it's very important, with the podcast and platform that you're doing, that the profile of foster carers needs to be raised. And I think, like I was saying, in terms of the top, it's important that foster carers also are part of those big meetings as well, whereby, foster carers are our stakeholders, just like our young people.
Thank you. Yeah.
They are. Foster carers, social workers, community organizations, parents, you are all our stakeholders. We work with you. So foster carers' voice needs to be there. And like I said, I'm really hoping with these reforms that are coming in, that the voice of foster carers is not lost.
I wonder also, Nana, you're a manager and you get the feedback from your social workers who you got supervising social workers in your team, and child protection social workers and children's social workers. One of the observations I've made, and I think Sarah might nod along with this one, is that often as foster carers, when we have the relationship or dialogue with our supervising social workers, is that they are still in child protection mode. And I don't know whether the child protection mode is because of that. You talk about the 2% of foster carers who perhaps aren't up to scratch and are therefore motivations, which is another conversation. But I mean, sometimes as foster carers in our own homes, we feel like we've let in an alley cat that's sniffing around looking for trouble. And it's that relationship, it's the reporting. I mean, as a foster carer, we are encouraged to report about our young people as we use their names, we're positive, we're offering confidence, but when we are a foster carer, we are reported about in a punitive way. We are described with negativity. And I wonder if it's because of that sheer dynamic where if the social workers did not come to us with their child protection hat on, because that bit's already happened, and they come managing us as if we're going to do something wrong, when actually we end up not telling them. And what I think is the most fragile and beautiful relationship we miss the opportunity to create, because we don't always
trust.
So we can't tell you everything that's going on because it'd be written down negatively.
I agree with
Honest,
I with the both of you. And you know what? It is sad because one of the things for me as a social worker, when I've been allocated social and I've gone to see young people, I'll give you an example. It's an old case of mine, but I remember, the young person called the foster carer auntie, part of his culture, and I would call the foster carer auntie as well. She's not my auntie, but out of respect and culturally. So the guard dropped anyway. And I would say, Auntie, look, can I be honest? Auntie, how's he getting on? How's he getting on? Auntie, be open and honest with me. Do you know what I mean? But I would reflect that in that way because I think for me, my biggest asset that I have outside of social work, inside of social work is being able to create brilliant relationships. Yeah. So and the way I would see it is that, foster carers would invite me into their homes to see the young people to the point that when I go see the young person, someone would be home from home. Do you know what I mean? So having Sarah and Louise, those conversations, the foster carer wouldn't feel, okay, right, Nana's coming in to scrutinize me. I would have an open conversation with the foster carer. And sometimes, on a visit, be me, the foster carer and supervisor social worker, where we just talk openly. But I do it in such a way that's balanced to say that I balance the views of what the foster carer is telling me, but I'm not coming in with my child protection lens to scrutinize too much. And even if the foster carer is saying, look, Nana, I'm at a point where I can't do this anymore, I would go and say, right, is there anything that I can do to support you? But I think, with what you both are saying, not every foster carer has that relationship with social workers. There are some social workers, yes, who can be very, very punitive, over punitive with foster carers to the point that they don't feel I can tell you so much because actually if I do, it's going to go against me. Whereas actually, should be able to have a transparent conversation in terms of
absolutely
what issues are. Do you know what I mean?
So I mean, I know I'm conscious of time here for Nana because you've given us your precious time. We're really appreciative of it. I think that last point you made really sums up what we all hope for. You've got to remember as well, we have a very precarious working status. So where you say that social workers are afraid to speak up, they're afraid to speak up with the full backing of employment rights, whistleblowing rights and everything. Foster carers don't have any of that. And of course, the one thing they're scared stiff of, it's not actually about their jobs, it's about losing the children. So I think that's a fantastic thing. I think Louise is going to do a little quick fire round here to end the session and a couple of questions, and then just give us some one-line answers.
Sorry, Nana, I've actually been looking forward to this, so you're going to forgive me. Like a pub quiz. Okay, so Nana, one myth about social work you'd scrap forever.
That we get bonuses for removing children and we don't.
Excellent. Woohoo, I love that.
Yeah.
Next one. What is the starting point for reform of the sector?
Lower caseloads for social workers.
Love that.
Yeah.
Last one of the pub quiz. And finally, gives you hope.
You could do a slightly longer one on that if you like.
Okay. Ask that final one again one more time.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope is that I know that with where I am and my platform that I can make changes. It's my passion and my driving force. Social work for me is my calling. It isn't just about the money and the status, which is why you see me everywhere. BASWA, Social Workers Union, the chief social worker in Parliament. That is my passion and drive and hope that I can make the changes, and I'm not going to give up. I think the moment that I lose hope, I will step away from this profession, but I still believe that I can make the impact. That's what gives me drive and gives me hope.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Nana. And I know a lot of foster carers will be shouting at the podcast saying, where do we find Nana? We want him. Yes. You are now suddenly the supervising social worker for 45,000 carers. So, and don't forget, everybody, please follow Nana on his podcast. It's called The Social Worker and the Mentor, and it can be found on YouTube, and it's absolutely fabulous. And again, like this one, it gets right to the core issues there.
And I have one request before I go.
Yes.
Myself and Robert have got another show called The Panel, and we are a panel of foster carers to come and speak. There's been a bit of reluctance of foster carers to come on, but I would love for there to be a panel of. We've had Sarah, yourself, and Nikki on.
Yeah.
Have a panel of foster carers to come and speak. Don't worry, you don't have to talk about which local authority you work for. This is just going to be a foster
So
carers.
if you're in listening to this, get in touch with us at info@fosterwiki.com and say that if you'd like to be on Nana's podcast. How interesting, Nana, that it says it all, that you're finding anyone brave enough to come on.
I'm going to say, there's not too sure. So please, foster carers.
Let's see what we can do.
We need about 3 or 4 foster carers who'd like to come on. Do not worry. We don't have to say which local authority you work for. It's called the fostering panel. That's the episode. We want 3 or 4. And don't worry. Sarah and Nikki did the podcast. Watch that episode.
I'm sure I get people. Now, is that where's the location of that, or can they do it online like this?
So with that podcast, it's on YouTube. That episode on YouTube. So just type in the social worker and the mentor Foster Wiki. You will find that episode on there, and it will be in our studio.
It'll be in your studio in London. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Oh, thank you so much, Nana. Any parting words from you, Louise?
Oh, absolutely. Music to my ears. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that you will offer hope to so many foster carers. We need more people like you. We want to work together and share skills. And thank you so much for coming on our show. And good luck with everything in the future. And we hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all next week for another Foster Care Uncovered, another stunning issue coming up next week. So stay tuned. And again, thank you, Nana. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.